welcome back to my channel, Girl Get Out. I am Stephanie, and today we are going to be discussing a topic that is very sometimes conflicting. We're talking about, should you take those opportunities for a career out of state, how it can affect you positively and negatively. Come on. It's basically on working out of state. It's something that is close to me, that I understand, something that I wanted to talk about that's like dear to me, because I have experienced this, and maybe I can help someone else out there that might be thinking about the same thing. So I'm going to try to stay on task. Again, I have some things that I wrote down to just go into about this subject. So when I say working out of state, what I mean is being a single parent, or either in a relationship. I think sometimes you can encounter situations where you have to make a decision based on the opportunity that it brings to you, and that means, would you take a job out of state? There are positives, there are negatives in doing something like that, and I've done this. So that's something that I wanted to talk about and see if I can get anyone else's opinion or how you feel about it, or maybe you could just take away from this video my experience and the things that has transpired doing this. So the first thing I want to talk about is it worth it? I would think that you would have to weigh that on your own scale and see what it's worth to you. I took an opportunity when my daughter was maybe 5, or she had to be like 6. And I had just been laid off from a job. I had been applying for this company for years and years and years, and I finally got it. I was living in New York State, and the job was all the way in Virginia. Now, I had a choice to make, because the company I was with that company for like 14-15 years, since high school, and there wasn't a good opportunity. I couldn't say it a great opportunity, but I moved up a couple times in rank, but it wasn't something I would make a career out of. So I was very unhappy with my career, and the path I was trying to take was with the federal government. So I had applied 1,000 times. My story is basically a story of faith. I think you have to have faith. I had been laid off for 5 months, and I had actually went to a TD Jakes. He was speaking at an arena where I lived at the time, and I was laid off, and I was just holding on to my faith. I was going good, 6 months of severance pay, and just holding on. I wasn't struggling at all. None of my bills were cut off, but I was uncertain about my career path and, you know, what I wanted in life. I knew, but I just wanted to make sure that I didn't break down in that time period. So again, I was a single mom, just coming out of a long-term relationship for 7 years, and it just seemed like everything was crumbling around me, but I still was faithful. So again, back to, I went to a TDJ's convention, and he had asked everyone to sow a seed. And I just wanted to share this with you because it does touch on faith in God. He asked everyone to sow a seed. And at that time a girlfriend of mine had invited me, and she was like, come down here to the convention center, you know, TD Jakes is preaching. And I was really going through a lot at the time. And I was like, you know what, I need this, you know, let me go. And I knew I only had $20 left, like, for that week to my name. And I had a truck, and, you know, I had food in my house. I had, everything I needed. My bills were paid, but I just had $20 left to my name. So I went down there, and I remember, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, like, there's parking, and I got to pay for parking, and I totally forgot about that. So I went in there. I said, okay, I'm not gonna worry about it. So I went in there, and then I remember my girlfriend was there with her family. So I found her, I sat down, and then TD Jakes was preaching about having faith. And there's a lot of people in here that are like trusting God for something, and you hear that so often, but you're like, okay, you know, he's talking to me. And at the time I was thinking, you know what, you never know when God is trying to tell you something. You just got to continue to hear his voice. So he was saying that if you trust God with everything, that you would take your last, anything you have, and just sow a seed. So I remember sitting there, and I was like, oh my gosh, if I put this $20 in there, how am I going to get out of this parking lot? My truck is in the parking lot. So I said, I'm not going to worry about it. So what I did was, and this is true, and I don't know what kind of faith, I do know what kind of faith. I had a faith the size of a mustard seed. That night I was like, okay, God, you know, what are you trying to tell me? So what I did was, I remember them passing the bucket to me, and I didn't want to let God down. I remember I knew how much money I had in my purse, and I knew God knew how much money I had, and I was like, trust him with everything. So I remember putting the $20 into the basket, and they passed it on. And I was just like, I'm trusting you, God. And they were like, just sow the seed with everything you have. And then I remember leaving the parking lot, and I remember before this happened, my girlfriend was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because I was putting my $20 in there. And I remember telling her that all I had was $20 left until next week. And I know that, I don't depend on anyone, and I really don't. At that time, I didn't tell a lot of people my business, which is something, a lot of us, we don't like to share when we're going through something. So I had sowed the seed, and after that, I remember leaving feeling so like I received everything that he preached about, and it touched me to the point where I was like, you know what, girl, you gotta just walk in faith, walk in it. You did it. I remember leaving the arena with my head held high. I remember people saying, hey, Stephanie, hey, people that saw me knew me. Me and my daughter were leaving, and I got in my truck, and I remember sitting there, and I was like, okay, God, like, I don't even know what I'm gonna do, but I remember riding to the gate, and before I can even get up to the stick, it opened. It just raised. And it was just like, I'm looking like, wait a minute, like, did I do something wrong? But I remember driving out of the parking lot, and I'm like, how did that just happen? But then again, you got to think, if you trust God, you just have to, just walk in it and know that he has you. And that was like the first sign of me knowing that, this opportunity was for me. But back to my story, that was just telling me that I was making the right decisions on this journey that I'm about to take you. So after that, I had packed up my stuff in my house. I was like, I'm getting out of here. I'm going to go ahead and move to Atlanta because I had family there, and I had moved back to New York from Atlanta, and I had left a great opportunity where I was because I was, going through things in a relationship, and you try to always make things work. But I had went back to New York. So after I'd been laid off, because each time I moved back, and ladies, if you know, sometimes even men have been through this. You move somewhere, move back, move somewhere, and the job that you were with, they take you back. So I had been at that job for maybe 14 years. I had left, moved back to Atlanta, and they still took me back because I was such a good employee. So each time I moved back, I went back to that same company. So I had got home that night, and I was like, you know what? I was having a conversation with one of my cousins that lived in Atlanta, and she was like, well, why don't you just come on down here, get back, you can find something. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do that. I went ahead, and it seemed like all the odds were against me. It seemed like everybody, anything that could happen, everything that can go wrong went wrong. But I just kept trusting in God. I ended up moving on my way back to Atlanta. I remember I had got a call from my father, and he had called me. He was like, what are you doing? And I was like, what? And he's like, the phone has been ringing, and the people from the federal government, the job that I had put in for, he's like, they've been calling here. They can't get in contact with you. And I'm like, what? So mind you, I'm just getting to Atlanta, and I hadn't even moved in good. And he was like, yeah, they want you. They want to hire you. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I ended up calling back the place that I wanted to work at, federal government, and they called me and said, hey, we want to hire you. You got 30 days to get here. And I had to leave Atlanta and go all the way to Virginia. Now, this was a time I had to make a decision. I had just got there. My daughter was young. She was just in elementary school, and I didn't know what to do, but I knew that God had sent that to me because I had trusted him. And even though you move, sometimes you can make mistakes, but God knows your heart. So that's one thing that I was saying. I wasn't leaving and going to Atlanta because I didn't trust God. It was just that I could not sit still anymore, because they say faith without work is dead. I was trying to just work and see what I can find. I'm like, hey, Atlanta was a place that I always thrived in. Let me go back there. That's not where he wanted me at that time. So I ended up moving, packing my truck back up, and I got on the road, and I just went to Virginia. And it happens to be that my dad lived in Maryland at the time, so fortunately I had a place to stay. So I commuted back and forth. And that's what I want to talk about, taking that opportunity. Sometimes when you do something like that, you think to yourself, like, is it worth it? Is it worth it? And when I got to Virginia, I didn't know a lot of people there. That job opportunity for me meant everything, because I knew that I could build a career. And that's one thing I want to remind people out there. When you're making those decisions, you have to think about what's best for you, what's best for your child. A lot of people are going to have something to say, and that's when it comes into, I'm looking down because I wrote down my questions. Naysayers. You're going to have a lot of people, why are you doing that? You shouldn't be moving there, or you shouldn't be going so far. Why are you going to a place you don't know? Sometimes you have to take opportunities and just make the best of them, because you're looking at the big picture. If it had not been for that job opportunity, or if it had not been for me sowing that seed, or it had not been for the federal government, I've been working for government for over 12 years now, and I feel like it was the best move that I ever made, because I was able to build a career and also be able to take care of my daughter. And I look at the positive parts of it. My daughter has lived in 3 different states, and she has grown with me, and she's had many opportunities that a lot of kids probably wouldn't. So I feel like it has affected her positively, because she's very independent. I've never had to leave her alone. I've always had great daycare services provided through my job, or either is flexible with the federal government. They allow you to work, and we used to be able to take our children with us to work on Saturday. So my daughter, she has grown up to see me hustle. She's seen me go hard for something that I love, and something that I know that would be better for us in the long run. I would say the negative parts, when you're going for an opportunity out of state, when it takes you away from your family, I would say that you will have to think about not being around your family all the time. Not having a lot of people that believe in you. I've had people that say, even when I was getting ready to get laid off at the company I was with for years, people were like, oh, why are you putting in for that? They're never going to call you. You just have to believe in yourself and go for it. Go for what you want. Also, sacrificing relationships. I've been through that. It's been a lot of times where you have a relationship and you might have to move out of state, and that person that you're with doesn't have that same opportunity. That shows you a lot about, that relationship. Doesn't mean the person doesn't love you, but you have to make up your mind whether that is a good situation, or you're willing to sacrifice for your relationship, or will that person come with you. At the time, I left, and I didn't think about anything else but taking care of my child and just getting a better life. You have to have your head focused to the point where you know that if it comes full circle, will he do the same thing for you? That's another thing. I've seen a lot of people sacrifice an opportunity, and they do it because they're in a relationship and they think that that person is not going to go, or the person. Choose somebody that's going to support you. Also know that if the shoe was on the other foot, would you support that person? You can be somewhere for a period of time. That's another reason why I chose to transfer with the federal government, is because I know that you can always transfer back. Or if your husband is in another state, or it has to be your husband, but you can transfer back to where that person is. But don't miss out. I would say don't miss out on an opportunity that may put you financially in the best situation. I feel like at times, let me just see what else I have here. I already talked about your faith in God. I think at times talk about what I've learned. I've learned to be independent. I was a very shy, scary, and I still, in certain ways I am, but a person that waited, like I used to wait for my dad to fix everything or do something for me, or I had somebody around me to help me. But moving out of state and working and taking that opportunity, it has allowed me to be a better mother. Dealing with people, it has really made me stronger as a parent. I can talk to my daughter about anything, because there's been times when it was only her and me. But again, like I said, it makes you a stronger person when you step out on faith and just forget what the naysayers are saying. Your dreams. That's another thing I want to talk about. Never forget to follow your dreams. If your dreams take you to another state, if you're thinking about joining the military, if you're thinking about, again, just taking a job in a whole other state, just make sure that you understand that your dreams doesn't mean that it's going to always be in your hometown. It may take you away. You can always come back and visit. And the people that love you the most sometimes won't support you. I've been in that situation where you have your family, they may not come and visit you right away, or they may think that, sometimes people don't always want to see you doing good until they're on the same level, and that goes with friends and families. But you just have to keep pushing and know that God will supply all your needs, and it'll come full circle. And I love to say that, because sometimes those same people, and just like I say with relationships, those same people that I've had relationships with or broken up with came back to me and was like, oh, I wish I really had did this with you. I see how good you're doing, and I wish I had stuck it out. But you got to know that sometimes people are in your life for a season and for a reason, and you just have to keep doing what you're doing. And as long as you're doing something positive and it's going to help you or help someone else in the long run, then trust and believe in yourself. Another thing I wanted to talk about was how it can affect your child. I would say, and I did touch on that a little bit, how it can affect your child. I would think when you move out of state, make sure you have a good, join how can I say it, a support group, like for your daughters or your sons, whatever you have, for their school. I joined the committee at school, and I met other parents when we moved to Virginia, because I didn't know anybody. And I met a couple parents. We started going skating with our kids. We started having play dates at different, houses, and I met a lot of good people that I'm still friends with today, and that I was able to learn from. And my daughter's still friends with those people today. And though my daughter is in college in Georgia, she's still friends with those same people that we met in Virginia, those same people we met in Maryland. She's still friends with those people, and I think that it taught her to develop relationships and to grow. No matter where you are, you can always learn how to move wherever you are. So I don't worry about her, and I say that now, that as she grows up and she's taking these opportunities in college, and I'm not surprised, but sometimes I get overwhelmed, and it makes my heart happy knowing that she'll call me and say, hey mom, I signed up for this, and this is going to take me here, I'm going to do that. It's like me I've shown her how to step out there in the world and just, take those opportunities and just go for it. And that's what it teaches your child when you do it. You're going to have hard times where you're like, man, I'm away from family, but keep pushing, because God will put family there for you. He'll put those people around you that will feel like that. And I also want to talk about think about the positive effects it can have on your life. When you're thinking about moving out of town for an opportunity, you may have lived in a town all your life, and you may have not experienced life in another place before. And the positive opportunities that you may be missing out on may be that you are just surrounding yourself with the same circle, and you need to get out. When I moved out of state, when I first moved to Georgia, when I first moved to Maryland, those places had so many different opportunities, and I saw so many things that I did not see in New York, that allowed me to basically expand, a lot of the things that I had not known, I had not explored. There's so many different opportunities in a lot of different states that you have to just put yourself on the forefront and know that you can teach someone else coming behind you, again, that may be afraid. I'm so thankful for taking the opportunity and moving out of state without listening to anyone telling me not to do it, because I feel like it's made me a stronger woman. It's made me not afraid to take those opportunities that may come somewhere else. Who knows, this might not be the last place I end up, but over the last 12, almost 13 years working with the federal government, I found that it's great opportunities, and I wouldn't change it. I mean, there are some things that people will try to tell you to, in order to be afraid or not to go. But I think that I wouldn't change anything that I did. I think I would just be more, I would probably do more. That's what I would do, because sometimes you hold back because you do have that little bit of fear. But thinking about it, I think I would do more. I think I would jump out there and just trust myself a little bit more. But again, I hope this video can help someone thinking about moving out of state, trying a new job, trying a new opportunity. I say go for it. I say God is the ruler of all things, and if you walk in faith, he will always be there to protect you. He will always be there to catch you when you fall. Again, you will have times where you will make mistakes in life, but you can always go back and try to fix it. Tomorrow is a new day, and I know everybody out there is suffering or going through something, especially with this coronavirus. We are all stuck in the house. We're all having the same pandemic that we're going through. But I think getting out after all this, you just look at things differently, and you know that sometimes the opportunities come up that you may never have again. So you have to weigh them against all odds and see if what's best for you. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will be back with more touching on other things, but I hope this can give someone else some insight on, you know, what they may want to, or making that decision on moving out of state. Again, I just wanted to offer some of my own opinions, to let you guys know that working out of state or taking a job opportunity in another state is not all bad, and there are some negative and there are some positive points, but you have to, again, step out on faith. And I hope this video brought you some clarity, or can at least help you a little with your situation. If you are thinking about taking that opportunity, I would say go for it, but again, don't forget to weigh it against your faith and make sure it's the right opportunity for you. Have a great day. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you'll come back for more. Like, comment, and subscribe below.